How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Well, it is hard to believe it, but the season opener between the Cowboys and the Eagles just 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. But before that, we are 2 days away from the final preseason game for the Cowboys as they get set to take on to the Falcons. And welcome to another edition of the Cowboys Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by, let me find this really quick, FanDuel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. And right now we are going to get going. Want to say welcome to the two co-hosts of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. That would be Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool. And of course, we are joined by the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, former Cowboys coach. Guys, great to see all of you. Hope your week is off to a good start. And coming up, we're going to have the very latest. We're going to get ready for Friday. But I know these shows have been maybe a little heavy at times. A lot of concerns, a lot of questions, right? A lot of angst sometimes from our viewers and people in the comment crew. So I thought maybe tonight we could start off on a little bit of a positive note, just to get going, right? So I thought we could do that courtesy, Marcus and Landon, of your show. You guys did a really deep dive, and very quietly, you're not hearing much about it, but apparently Dak and George Pickens have been putting on a show, no pun intended, at practice. That's got to be good news, right?
Go ahead, Landon. I'm not generally the optimistic, happy person on the podcast, so please go ahead.
I love that that's fallen to me. That's pretty sad state of affairs, to be honest. I mean, I think the point is that when the Pickens deal was done, everyone was like, on the field, this is a perfect matchup. This is he's an X. He's a guy who likes to be isolated. He can get vertical, and that's what Dak loves. And everyone's like that. The talent is incredible. I mean, he's clearly a guy who has been a productive receiver early in his career in the NFL and has shown the kind of talent that is rare. But the problem is that this thing is just going to blow up. As soon as the Pickens gets there, and I just feel like we've been so mired in the just anger of the Micah Parsons situation and some of the situations at positions like nose tackle that we've kind of just lost sight of how exciting this Cowboys passing attack is going to be, especially considering the fact that if you're just kind of breaking the team into segments in the way that modern football runs, like the passing attack is probably the most consequential part of the team. So it was nice to kind of get a reminder, a sort of in your face from the video and camp reminder of why this team is considered, despite having played a very difficult schedule this year, they're still scheduled to potentially be in the playoff race when the season's all said and done.
Jeff, can I tell you why I'm struggling a little bit to be optimistic about George Pickens? It's not because he's not a really good player. It's because I'm worried about like what's going to happen next year, right? He's got the same agent as Micah Parsons, David Mulligetta, and I'm just worried that, hey, this is like a 1 year thing. It reminds me a little bit of like when you have a girlfriend in high school, that senior year, you're trying to enjoy that time, but you both know you're going to separate colleges. That's what this feels like to me. And I'm just having a hard time being in the moment to enjoy this. I'm sure once it starts, they start playing, I'll get there, but that's just me being an internal pessimistic.
That's the quickest way to have her run off to somebody if you're not paying attention to her right now, Marcus. Come on, let's focus on her.
You're telling me.
Well, hey, I mean, at least, right? I mean, it sounds like, look, the first two preseason games have not looked good, but as you guys have all pointed out so well after each of the games is that, hey, nobody's playing. So really all we're kind of in the dark right now until we get to see everybody on the field. So we're getting to see them at least a little bit in practice. So hopefully that's good.
Yeah, I mean, again, it does sound like George Pickens is having a really strong training camp, and I'm mostly teasing, but it sounds like Dak and the Pickens connection has really picked up some steam over the last 2 weeks, and I think if the Cowboys are going to be successful this year, it's going to be because of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens, and if they're going to be a top 5 offense in the league, it's going to have to start happening the way that it's happening in practice right now. So again, it's okay to be encouraged and hopeful about what this may look like this year.
All right. Coach, anything?
Yeah, it's just great. I like to see those guys making plays. Who are they going against? Go. I got
Wait, we're supposed to be positive.
I got,
here,
yeah, I got it.
Here,
let me give it. I got it. Let me give it to you. Yeah, they're going against the Dallas Corners. I want to see him continue to make plays. I want to see him continue to hook up. I mean, it's good that he's making these big catches, and you can see. I mean, you can see the upside of what is going on here with a receiving core that I think is going to be really good with some interior offensive linemen that are going to be really good. I mean, yeah, I like starting out that I think there are some positive things. And I tell you something, and this is how I feel about it just being a 1-year deal. I mean, if he does what what everybody expects him to do, I'm not sure this is just a 1-year lease scenario. I think there could be, Jerry's done a lot of different things to not do what we all expected him to do. So, hey, maybe he throws us a curveball on this one.
Listen, despite all of y'all's opportunity to try to make this into a pessimistic podcast, when we all agree that this is going to be an optimistic podcast, I just want to point out that the point that I was making was not necessarily that he's making plays in practice, because that's to be expected. I mean, he is a playmaker in the league, no matter who the cornerback is. My point is that he hasn't blown the whole practice up with his antics, which was the expectation by everybody in the national media when he was coming here. It's not that this guy was not a good enough player or that he wouldn't be a great fit for the Cowboys, which, again, I'm not necessarily suggesting that we've seen that yet. We still got to play football games. The expectation was that this dude was going to come in here and pour gasoline on a fire, and he hasn't been the issue that has been advertised to us yet.
I agree. I mean, he's been a model citizen. That's a great thing. I mean, come in here and do what you're supposed to do to help a team. That's a absolutely newfound concept.
The bar may be through the floor, Coach, but he's clearing it. All right, he's clearing that bar. That may be the issue.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about clearing bars, and Marcus is worried about his high school girlfriend. Hell, it's a couple steak guy's choice. Get over there and ask her if she wants a steak. Quit standing around.
She's at the bar right now.
You're bringing up a lot of trauma here, Stretch. I don't need to talk about it, but that's okay. That's for a different show. Might need BetterHelp, one of our sponsors.
BetterHelp, that's right. Exactly.
Nice plug there. All right. Well, also coming out of practice so far in the running back room, Javonte Williams has been getting most of the reps, followed by the rookie Jaden Blue, who is going to make his debut Friday night against the Falcons.
Yeah, we're excited to see Jaden Blue. I mean, I think, he's a guy that, Marcus and I actually did an episode today about, I think tomorrow it's coming out, that we're building kind of the initial part of the 53-man roster and kind of coming up with guys who were, not that are locks to be on the team, that are just, these are the core group of guys that we know are going to be on. What we can haggle with the 10 or 11 names outside of this, but we came up with a core group of 42, I think it was, right? 42, was it, Marcus? 42 names.
44 after I added a couple more in there. Yeah, 44 names.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Because Marcus rightfully added the long snapper, because obviously we're going to have a long snapper, so it's fair. And then I think one more. So yeah, and the funny thing is that we only ended up keeping I think 3 running backs, including Hunter Lipke. So I think that Jaden Blue is one of them. That's the reason I wanted to bring that up, is because, I think Javonte Williams has very clearly kind of established himself as the guy that's going to be the starter or the running back one in this group. I think Blue is a guy that they're going to have on this team because they're fascinated by him. He's a rookie. They think he has a unique skill set in this group. And I think that this is going to be our opportunity to see exactly, how much of a role he could have early in this season, based on how he handles this load. This is a guy who didn't get a ton of carries, on his own at Texas. He was sharing a backfield with a bunch of really talented running backs. So I think if he goes out there and actually, kind of gets a lion's share, which I don't know is necessarily how he was planning to be used early in his NFL career, it'll be an interesting way to kind of evaluate things like his ability to carry and hold on to the football, which has been a problem with him in college, his ability to kind of run through contact and run between the tackles. So I'm interested just because we just haven't seen Jaden Blue,
right,
take a bunch of carries all in a row as the main back in an offense in a while.
Coach, why don't you go ahead? Then I'm going to add some stuff in, but go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I like the thought of having a home run hitter. I mean, I like the guy that can, he's got some shake to him and he can make the safety miss. And that's a good thing. I mean, I want to see him get some burn in this preseason. He should be a guy that gets some burn in this preseason. So I know he's been dinged a little bit, but good that he's going to get in there and let's see what he looks like. Do I wish that, Dallas was starting their interior three starters and BB and Smith and Booker? Yeah, but you know what? You got to go kind of play the hand that's dealt you here. And I hope this young man goes out and shows exactly what he can do, which is he can take a 5-yard run and turn it into a 35-yard run.
One of the things he just needs experience. Like if you look at his college stuff, and Landon references, like just didn't get a lot of touches in college. I think it was 215 carries at Texas. And then you even go back and look at his high school numbers. If you combine freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, plus the years at Texas, 640 career carries. Like you're talking about somebody who has hardly touched the ball as a running back when we're talking about like someone like Ashton Genty has 800 carries over the last 2 years at Boise State. So he needs as many of these reps as possible, not just as a runner, but as a pass blocker, as a receiver, just getting comfortable about knowing, what he can get away with and what he can't in an NFL game. The speed is going to get really ramped up here in 2 weeks. This is a really big opportunity for Jaden Blue.
And when was the last time that he was the primary back who's going to get the lion's share of all the carries through a whole half of football? I mean a guy that's not being deployed, in the NFL, in the regular season, I think he's going to be deployed situationally, right? He's a home run hitter. I think we talked about like the kind of Tony Pollard role early in his career where you used him selectively to kind of just mix it up a little bit to create some explosive plays. I'm interested to see him in this preseason game because he's going to have to function probably as like the main back doing all the things. I want to see him pass protect. I want to see him catching passes. Obviously, those are things that we know he's going to do. I want to see him running between the tackles. I would like to see him take on 3 or 4 series where he's the only back on the field and see how he handles the wide variety of things that you ask your running back to do.
That's a great point. Let me ask you this. After what we saw last weekend, did Miles Sanders play himself off the team? Did he lose his spot with that performance, or is that too harsh?
Well, it probably depends on what Jaden Blue does this weekend, right? If Jaden Blue goes out and plays really well, maybe you feel more comfortable about moving on from Miles Sanders and just having Hunter Lipke and then name your practice squad running back, Deuce Vaughn, Phil Maffa, Malik Davis. But if Blue is fumbling the ball or he's missing assignments, then maybe you do have to keep Miles Sanders on the roster just so you have a veteran guy back there. But honestly, it's probably going to depend a lot on what we see this weekend.
I wouldn't be shocked if
I don't know that you play yourself off. I think we know what he is now. I mean, he had opportunity to get out there and he had opportunity to bow his neck on 4th and 1, and he decided not to do that. So, I mean, in my mind, he's kind of shown you what he is. And I don't know that means play yourself off, but what I do like that they're doing is put Blue in there and let's see what we got. Then we can kind of truly give everybody what we feel like is a 10 or 12 play evaluation. Let's string them all up there together. Let's put Deuce Vaughn up there. Let's put all these guys up there. Let's put their runs one after the other up there. And then let's get everybody in here. Let's get pro scouting in here. Let's get Will McClay in here. And let's get, everybody. And let's look at them and look at their body of work and what they've done and then make a decision. I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference between, Maffa, Sanders. I haven't studied it that much, but I think they need to study that so that they have some idea and then also have some other guys who may be getting cut here and say, hey, are we upgrading ourselves at running back if we bring in X or Y or Z, whoever that guy is, and is he better than maybe a guy that we're keeping?
I think with the practice squad rules too, there's a good chance that you cut a guy like Sanders just to maybe not guarantee the money that you had paid him up front, or the rest of the money that you had up front, and then you could still bring him back on the practice squad if he doesn't go someplace else, which he's not likely to because of all the veteran and young talent that's going to be flooding the market at the time. So there's a chance that he doesn't make the initial 53-man roster, but he ends up playing snaps for you week one because he's on the practice squad and you call him up for the game. I think that's a realistic scenario as well. And I think that's something that wouldn't be a surprising move to see them do at running back throughout the season if they continue to use a committee just to not to roster that third running back, but just to kind of find a guy, stash him on the squad, and then call him up as needed.
All right.
We just talked about how many they may keep. I mean, are you thinking that if they do keep three, I mean, are you thinking that then you're going to require, who else you think's going to carry the football? I mean, are you thinking that Turpin's going to get a few carries? Or are you thinking somebody else could get a few carries in here?
I think it's Turpin, but Turpin and Lipke kind of, half and half the running back 3 carries, right? Like, I mean, I wouldn't normally go that route, Coach, but we've just seen so much of them in practice using Turpin as a running back that it doesn't feel like it's just, a one snap thing. It feels like it's an actual part of their plan. So
it get you through a game until you are able to grab a running back off the practice squad. But we're talking about like 2 pure runners and then a guy that can do a little bit of everything in Hunter Lipke.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just asking how you came up with that. I mean, I think when you look at the other positions of how things stack up right now, I mean, they're going to have to, they're probably going to have to keep 1 or 2 more defensive backs than maybe they've kept from before. So I do think I like thinking outside the box, and I'm sure that's what the personnel people are going to be doing.
And guys like James Houston. I mean, if you want to keep an extra defense, if you want to go long at defensive end, you're going to have to find a position that you go short at. Running back just seems like a natural position that, because of the way that the market economics work at the position, it's easier to stash a guy that you like on the practice squad and then just call them up as needed.
All right. Well, you mentioned Dak looking good at quarterback, but what about the Dak backup plan? We got to hit on that. It's still a storyline. It's not set in stone yet. We'll get into that when we come back. Also have some more questions about your final roster numbers. I think that's very interesting. We'll get into that as well. Still got to mention Micah at some point. There's a couple new twists that I wanted to run by you guys as well. And the Netflix documentary is out. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but it's getting really good reviews. We'll get into that when we come back. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. Well, you know what time it is. If you've ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe it's a game day and suddenly you realize you want to be in the stands, maybe you want to go to the game Friday night, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they have incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And again, the seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you will be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher, Landon McCool, and the coach, former Cowboys coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. All right. On Monday, Brian Schottenheimer said Joe Milton will get the start on Friday night at quarterback. That's already been decided. But it was not really, it was more of, we're starting him because we really need to see more. We need more reps. We want to see improvement. We want to see what he can do. Where are we at with that? We've talked about the idea of maybe picking somebody up when the cuts happen before next Tuesday. But in the meantime, it's Joe Milton and Greer. What are your thoughts on that? And what are you looking for on Friday?
Coach, why don't you go? This is right up your alley. You love talking about Joe Milton.
I mean, I've seen him in 6 quarters now. I've seen a guy that needs a ton of reps. He needs a ton of work. I don't need to see anything else, and they don't need to see anything else. So put him in the football game, give him all the reps you can give him, and hope that you've given up from a trade value standpoint. Hope you haven't been fleeced, because right now that's kind of what it feels like. And so, do I think this young man has an upside? I do, but I think he is a long ways away from being any kind of even a guy that you could finish an NFL game with. And I say that because of what I've seen in the 6 quarters that he's been in there. Do I think that the Cowboys need another a 2? Yeah. Do I think they're going to afford to pay or have the money to go pay for a high-end 2, which is going to be somewhere between what did Cincinnati just gave 10 for their backup? So it's a $6 to $10 million proposition. They're not wanting to do that. However, what choice do you have? And then I'm going to continue to say this. Who championed this trade for Joe Milton? Who championed that? And if it's the head coach, or if it's the quarterback coach, or if it's somebody else, hey, they're wanting to see what they have here and know all along that he's not going to be, he can't be the 2 to give yourself any chance to win.
So, Coach, I don't disagree with you at all on anything you said, okay? But you always like to remind me, what is the win total that FanDuel has set for the Cowboys this year again? What's that number?
Average is a bowl of grits. Cut it right in half. You tell me what half of 17 is.
8.5, right?
Well, quit scratching your butt, Jeff Biggs. Did you know it's 8.5, or you just
look how fast I was. I'm
Okay.
good. 8.5, right? So we've been talking. I know Jeff just getting shots out of nowhere.
Fair.
It's not fair.
Fair.
8.5 wins, right? If Dak Prescott misses any time this season, it doesn't really matter, right? You're not making the postseason, right? In fact, there's a chance that Dak plays all 17 games and you still don't make the postseason. And that's why I've been telling Landon this. I have a hard time caring about this backup quarterback situation, because if one of these guys has to play, they're in so much trouble anyways, because so much of this offense is built around Dak Prescott. I understand we want to see Milton play better. He has not played well at all. This has been kind of a continuation of what's been happening in practice. I just have a hard time getting too upset about the backup quarterback not looking great. And honestly, I don't think the Cowboys should throw more money when they're already kind of strapped with cash as is at a position that ultimately doesn't make that big of a difference for them.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that let's say you get week 15 and you're somewhere in the ballpark of making some sort of move. Again, this is all it's sheer speculation. I agree with you. If the one goes down, I don't know on what NFL team you could point to and say if the one goes down, you feel good about the team just picking up and continuing to run. I mean,
some of the teams with the 1 and the 2 aren't any different. Like, a couple of these
Browns,
Cleveland. I don't want to bring up the Colts.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I'm also saying that what are you doing from a developmental standpoint? What do you have? Do you not like the position that the Giants are in right now with they've got Russell Wilson.
No, I think all their quarterbacks are bad. So no, I kind of don't like the situation.
I thought you were kidding. Yeah, I hate the Giants' position right now because they got
you don't like the position they're in developing a quarterback.
I mean, I don't like the quarterback.
No. Wait a minute. They're in the tank, and they may have their franchise quarterback. You don't like that position?
Yeah, but we don't know if he's good, and the other guys I know aren't good anymore.
And I don't know that the coaching staff that hired him are going to be around to develop him.
Well, I don't know either. Let's start flipping coins and go to the circus. Hell, I don't know. We don't know if any of them are going to be around.
Sign me up. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I got it. Dayball, and so is Indianapolis in the same position with
I don't like their situation.
With Chris Ballard and Steichen, and are they in the exact same position? I don't know if they're going to be around.
No, I think
they made poor decisions that are going to make them for sure not be around. I mean, how they're handling the Richardson situation. It's not like Richardson's good, but at the same time, like, what's the point of playing Daniel Jones? Like, that's kind of why.
This guy's.
We'll see. But see here. Hold on here. Now, hang on. Hang on. The owner of the team has passed and left it to the daughters, so you're going to have a whole new set of glasses looking at that. Okay, Chris Ballard, who drafted Richardson with the 4th pick in 2023, is now admitting and saying, hey, maybe we didn't get the right pick here. I've got a head coach here that I'm trying to keep my job. And okay, let's get an experienced guy who can at least show that we've got the arrow going the right way. And if he can't, they're going to blow the thing up anyway.
I 100% agree with what you're saying, but I'm not saying that that's good for the football team. That's good for Chris Ballard and like keeping his job. I 100% agree. He's just saving his butt, but I don't think that that's good for the team long term to not. And I think that's the same thing with what's going on with the Cowboys is that's why they need to play these guys in the 3rd preseason game is because guys like Richardson, guys even more so with our guy, like he needs the snaps to play. It's not even just about evaluation. It's about development, and the only opportunity a guy like these backup quarterbacks get to actually get snaps on the field for someone like Joe Milton is in these games. So
all right, so I'll ask you this question: what did they give up for Joe Milton?
Was that a 5th, and they got back a 7th?
Okay, all right, hang on. So they could have had Shedeur Sanders, right? The 5th round pick.
Yeah, I mean, they could have had.
Hang on. So you know right now? Would you rather have Shedeur or Milton?
I don't want.
Go ahead, Landon.
It's for me, like the squeeze. Like Shedeur doesn't have like upside developmental traits. Like to me, I think you're at a floor and a ceiling situation with Shedeur. So I don't know that he's, for me, the best example there because I'm looking for upside to develop. I've already got a quarterback that can get me through a certain amount of games. Look, I think it also depends on what you're looking for. I think for the Cowboys, they're looking to develop a potential quarterback for the future down the road. And I think that's the issue for a lot of us is that we kind of went into the situation not knowing what the expectation for Joe Milton was. Was the expectation, hey, are you coming in here to be our quarterback too? Because if that was the case, you clearly have not met that expectation. However, if you were the guy that the Cowboys were buying the long-term talent of, we're going to just do what we can, feed him some snaps, we'll figure out the backup quarterback situation, but we want to develop Joe Milton, the quarterback, then I think that they're probably on track. And I don't mind what they gave up for it, because ultimately they know what they've got, the quarterback this year and next year, which is really the only benefit to having Shadur Sanders over Joe Milton is I think he's probably a better quarterback right now. But if the idea is to look long term, I would rather have Milton.
Understand? Is that not what they did with Trey Lance?
100%. And then I think what they screwed up with is they didn't play Trey Lance. They had the opportunity all of last year when they were playing meaningless games with Cooper Rush, who also wasn't winning. And so why not throw Trey Lance out there and see if he does what he's done in this preseason game with the Chargers? So I don't disagree. I think they've learned from their lesson last year of not giving this guy a chance to develop him. And then if you're gonna hold on to them, then you have to give him a whole bunch of preseason snaps for him to develop in any sort of way, and they didn't necessarily do that with Trey Lance.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. I guess I'm saying that at some point it's like you have to identify who you want to develop, and then you have to develop them. And so I think that's a frustrating thing for me is I see Schottenheimer get on and start talking about, well, he's, after the second game, we really had bad footwork. And I mean, in individual drills, are you working footwork? Hell, I don't know. I'm on here talking to you guys. What the hell do I know?
No, but to your credit, I also think that the difference between how he has looked, I think the issues are the same, but the magnitude of how he has looked in the game versus how he has looked in practice is quite different. Like, he has looked more successful in practice getting away with it. Now, part of that is also that they're not stopping the play when the defensive end's tapping him on the shoulder and indicating a sack. But I also think that beyond that, I think we've seen Milton's struggles accentuated in these games, and so they must be trying to scratch their head as well, just figuring out what the difference is between what they get in practice and what they get in the games.
At the end of the day, this is a very difficult position to evaluate. It happens all over the NFL. It happens everywhere. Guys don't know how to evaluate or don't evaluate the quarterback position very well. And so, and let's be honest, we could sit here and have 5 shows about this, but I mean, it's how the game changes. It's what kind of quarterback do you want? It's guys throwing in an air raid system that are now coming to the National Football League. And okay, you're not doing as much running around in the NFL as you are in college when you've got speed defensive ends that can set the edge and guys blowing it up in there and making you a lot of times have to sit in that pocket. I mean, there's one Lamar Jackson. And so, yeah, does he extend it? Absolutely he does. But Mahomes was able to do that too. But I just think when you start saying, okay, well, we got to have a guy that can he's got great discernment. He can read. He can get the ball out on time. He can run around and extend plays. I think people have a hard time evaluating all that.
Yeah, it's hard.
I've got a very important question for Coach when we get back from this break, Jeff, and that'll help launch us into our next conversation about the Cowboys. I'm excited to get to it.
Okay. I like that. I like that tease, Marcus. Good job, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll do that when we come back. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. And as you know, it's that time of the year, not just for the NFL and preseason and everything else, but this episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, Now is the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play head-to-head in private leagues or even join a public league, but stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show with the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, and Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool, co-hosts of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. All right, Marcus, take it away. You had a question for the coach.
Yeah, I was watching Hard Knocks on Tuesday night. I know not a lot of people are watching Hard Knocks anymore, but former Dallas Cowboy guard Connor McGovern was talking about why he enjoys Buffalo more than Dallas. And the main reason he said for him is that there's no good pizza places in Dallas. So I just want to know, Coach, is that true? Wow. Is the pizza scene that bad where you guys are at?
I mean, I don't know that it's that bad, but I didn't know that was how you gauged a good town, by whether you could get a good piece of pizza or not.
Isn't it the only way to judge a good town?
Best pizza I've ever had is in Chicago. That doesn't mean I want to live there.
He's comparing Buffalo to Dallas, so he's got to find whatever reason he can.
Well, let me just say the Buffalo pizza scene is very, very good. I'm give Connor some credit there.
It's the water. It's the water. Come on, let's be clear. The New York water. We're not going to get into why bagels and pizza is better back east, but it's the water system, and we all know that. So don't take so much credit.
Sorry, Jeff. Didn't mean to hijack the show, but I thought that was very interesting that we have now free agents signing in Buffalo rather than Dallas because the pizza scene isn't up to par.
I mean, that's probably when you ought to go think about checking yourself in for a frontal lobotomy, if that's the case, or a bottle in front of me.
That was from a song too. Didn't somebody use that song? Didn't use that line?
That's a country music lyric if I've ever heard one.
That's it.
Coach, we're only like 3 months away from going into our igloos up here. It's not that far away. I can't wait.
Hey, I mean, just the thought of seeing you week after week in a hoodie it really is. It's enough to make me want to take a knee already.
It's tough to play golf in a hoodie. It's tough.
Telling me.
Yeah.
All right, so we've kind of hit on the offense a little bit. What have you guys been kind of focused on or thinking about this week after the weekend, if anything game related at all, and is there anything you're maybe hoping to see here in this final preseason game, or no?
Jeff, I'll say one of the things that Brian Schottenheimer said earlier this week is that there's going to be some surprise cuts on this roster that nobody has been talking about. And that's one of the things that Landon and I touched on during today's show, is that who could be some of those names that we're penciling in on the roster right now that don't end up making the team. And one of the names that we came up with, and Coach, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, is Kenneth Murray on defense, right? We saw these linebackers play really well in the preseason last week. Jack Sanborn, Maris Leofau, Shamar James, Damone Clark played well. Kenneth Murray's missed a lot of time during this training camp. He's also the most expensive linebacker on the team by a lot. Coach, do you think there's a chance that Kenneth Murray is one of these guys that just doesn't end up making the team?
I mean, I do think that. I think you could see in that position where normally in today's game you've only got two of them out there. I could absolutely see going back to the conversation that you guys had earlier when you start talking about numbers and having to have numbers and having to have guys contribute on special teams and having to put yourself in that position where it's a financial, plus or minus. I could see that. I could also see where, like right now, they could be working the phones, thinking about seeing what they could get to move some of these guys who they don't think are going to make the team. I mean, what could you get for him? What could you get for? And again, I don't want to start speculating here, but what could you get for Mozzie? What could you get for guys that maybe you're disappointed in coming out of this camp? And I think that's something that they're probably going through right now.
Yeah, Kenneth Murray was a name that, when we had this exercise that I kind of was thinking made a lot more sense than, because we were talking about cuts at the time, and Mozzie was one of the names that kind of came up with that, and that didn't make sense in a cut situation because of the financial investment there with his pick. You would end up paying, losing money on the deal. However, a trade does make some sense if you could find somebody. And look, I mean, obviously, you're not at this point. You're disappointed with the way Mozzie's performed, so you're not going to get a blockbuster trade out of the situation, but a situation that gives you something in return for him, frees up opportunity. You're still going to need to, figure out that position. You're still going to need to go and get another body. So it would be nice to try to figure out, if you were going to separate from this situation, figure out a way to do it so that it's at least revenue neutral and you're not taking a bath on the situation. And I think a trade makes that more palatable.
Yeah, and there's teams out there that believe, I'm sure, that Mozzie Smith can get back to the player we saw in Michigan. Heck, his coaches, Jim Harbaugh, and Jesse Minter over there in LA, I'm sure they wouldn't mind adding him to the team. But that's kind of the tricky part here, is how do you fit these guys on the roster? Are there a couple players that just don't fit this coaching staff? Again, this is a brand new coaching staff. Yes, Brian Schottenheimer is here, but he's going to be running a different system. Matt Eberflus is going to be running something different than what Mike Zimmer did. So some of these guys that were on the roster last year, don't be so sure that they're going to be on the roster this time around.
They're deep in a couple of different key spots that have value, trade value. If you were looking for a starter, they've got starter level quality at potentially at edge rusher, or at least a contributor at edge rusher if someone's looking for it, at offensive line. All the injuries that have been happening in preseason already, the Cowboys have a guard and a center who I think you could easily trade and say, hey, this guy could plug in and be a starter for me from day one, we're looking for opportunities to be starters on this team if they hadn't drafted a guard at 12. So I think that there are opportunities to kind of spread out the talent on this team by kind of making some trades, maybe even a player for player situation to kind of, maybe you get help from the defensive tackle. But I think on top of that, when we're talking, going back to the original part of this, I think when Schottenheimer talks about surprise cuts, I think it's going to be situations where you've gotten better than expected performances from a key number of contributors at that same position, and you're looking at the again, like Kenneth Murray, and you're saying, hey, Leofau's played well. Clark's shown you something. They clearly like Shamar James a lot. I know Overshone's coming back at some point this season, and when he does, that's probably going to force either one of those two starters off the field. So why wouldn't you just potentially look and see if you could get something from Murray, or at least get something back by potentially not having him on the 53-man roster?
Well, I like that. It's not. Doesn't have to be a draft pick. I mean, it can be a player. I mean, you get your eyes on somebody that you think can upgrade you. I mean, and that's exactly what they should be doing, because if the one thing you haven't gotten out of this preseason is the bottom end of this roster is not very good, so you should be looking to turn the bottom end of this roster.
I was going to make a joke about Najee Harris getting traded for Mozzie Smith, but then he said eyes, and I just lost it. So go ahead.
I meant to ask this earlier when you guys came up with your kind of core roster compilation. How did he feel about it? I mean, did you feel good about it? Do you feel like there's room there?
For me, the exercise was exclusively, who do you feel like is on the team? And again, right, like when we were going through it, it wasn't even necessarily like these are like a depth chart, because I think Ajay Cornelius was a great example. I think he's a lock to make this team. Correct. Not because I think he's the second best offensive tackle the third best offensive tackle on this team. I think it's because you see a guy that you can develop. He's got a 6-round contract associated with him. I think this exercise was about who are the 42-ish contracts that the Cowboys are definitely going to want to retain. And that's a little bit different than like ranking who you're putting out on the field on week one.
But it's also a fun exercise because like linebacker is a spot that they've got a lot of depth and cheap contracts, where defensive tackle, you've got one guy that you're paying, Osa Digizua. You've got one first-round draft pick in Mozzie Smith, and then you've got one veteran minimum guy in Solomon Thomas, and that's it. That's the entire room. So it is an interesting. You can see the spots that we feel like they could be churning here over the next 2 weeks.
And it's hard to find those guys. I mean, that's the there. I can promise you. I bet you every team in the league is saying, "Man, we'd like to have a good 2 defensive tackle." I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, and like Landon said, I mean, if you're heavy at offensive line, and it looks like they are with Hoffman and Bass, and might somebody give you something significant for either one of those guys?
Yeah, interesting. It's going to be interesting to see see what they do if they add anybody after the cut downs. What's the injury situation going to be? But you get the sense there'll be maybe a little bit of wiggle room there for them to tweak the bottom of the roster.
I think we're going to see the Cowboys put in more roster claims and make more trades than maybe ever before. Usually the Cowboys are only claiming like one guy that's from outside the roster. I get the sense that over the next 2 weeks, we're going to see upwards of like 6 new players at the bottom of this roster. Wow. That's going to be fun. I can't wait to talk about them all.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't be shocked if it was like that at all, just because I think that they're trying to change how they're doing some things at the bottom of the roster. And I think that it's part of that is churning it out a little bit more. And I think things kind of got a little bit stale at the bottom of the roster under McCarthy at times.
Okay. All right. When we come back, our final segment, we'll have some final thoughts. We'll look ahead to Friday, and we got to do just a little brief Micah mention to kind of give the very latest. I want to see where you guys stand on that. We'll do that literally, I promise you, in seconds on the Cowboys Squad Show. See, told you, under 10. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Great to be with you. Cowboys getting ready for their preseason finale with the Falcons on Friday night, which will put them less than 2 weeks away from the season opener against the Eagles on the road in Philly. All right, so we had a couple little conflicting Micah Parsons reports, if you will. You had the Adam Schefter report from a few days ago that he says that a divorce is going to happen. He thinks a divorce will happen at some point in the future.
More of an Adam Schefter feeling. Like we should stop calling these things reports at a certain point, right? Like
that's true. That's fair. Then you had Micah's brother come out and say, "No, man, he wants to be out there. He doesn't want a divorce." So I don't know. Where do you guys stand? I mean, the fact that he's still around and things have kind of calmed down. The only issue is we're getting closer, and maybe kind of like we've been talking about, maybe they just want to let him play out this season and deal with the next off season.
That is certainly a possibility, but I think Adam Schefter having a feeling on a slow news day on a Monday while he was doing the Pat McAfee show is not enough for me to change my stance on how this is going to happen. I still believe that the Micah deal is going to happen. We're still, I mean, Marcus, check my facts here. We're still 9 days out from where CD Lamb signed last year, right?
Yeah, it was August 27th last year. Yep.
Oh, sorry, 7. So we're a week out. We're a week out from where even CD signed last year. And I think, at the end of the day, it would be frustrating and it would be, teeth gnashing situation. I would be furious with it. But at the end of the day, he is under contract. Like I am watching the Cowboys documentary on Netflix. I wasn't so sure about how to feel about it at first. I've gotten into it, man. It's just really good documentary filmmaking, and I didn't not tear up in the '92 championship games episode, but I'm also reminded of the Emmitt Smith holdout, right? Like, and that situation where he didn't have a contract, right? So it's. The worst comes to worst, we have Micah for this year. It's a terrible situation, but at a certain point, like we also have to focus on what's going on the regular season, because we have regular season football games coming up. And if Micah decides to hold out from week one, that's a whole other situation. I really, really, really doubt that he's going to do that, because I also just really doubt that they aren't going to sign a deal before the season starts. I that's where I'm still standing at this point.
I'm still of the belief that Micah Parsons gets a deal before week one. But if we get to the regular season, I don't expect Micah to sign any deal, because once the season starts, I think he's going to be focused on the season. But it lends you to a bunch of other issues that could happen. So we had Jalen Ramsey, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, who was repped by David Mulligetta, who was playing on a deal that he didn't love, suddenly popped up in the middle of the season with back issues. I'm going to use quotation marks, back issues, kind of like what Micah Parsons is dealing with right now, back issues, right? And he ended up missing games. He still gets a paycheck because he's hurt, right? And it just is this thing that lingers over your football team all year long. I think the thing the Cowboys are trying to use against Micah is his love for football and wanting to be out there. But Micah's a different cat, right? Micah loves football, but he'll also sit out a year if it's in his best interest. And we saw it in 2020 during the COVID season. Like, he didn't play football that year. So I just think it makes sense to get a deal done so you can just get rid of all that distraction, not have to keep worrying about whether he's going to get franchised or traded or whatever happens next year. I don't know when the deadline is. I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if it's next week, but I still think this thing gets done.
I mean, judging by, the past that I have had in dealing with Jerry, and judging by his body language and judging by what he said, Jerry has a red ass. He felt like he had a handshake deal in this scenario. And I can tell you that I think to come up and just say, well, it's going to take 45 a year to get it done, when Jerry thinks he had a deal, I'm not sure that that's the case. And then I think I saw somewhere today where if they franchise him a year from now, that number would be somewhere under like 27 million. Is that right?
Next year, I can double check, but go ahead. I'll double check.
I think it's so the point I'm making is, let's say it's 20. What's he making this year? 23, almost 23.
Yep, something like that.
Okay, 23 and 27. So talking, how long is it going to take him to make up that money let's say if he has to play into those two situations for 50, where he could have already gotten 40 plus this year. I think Jerry, I really believe that going into this thing, we already thought they had a deal, and I think they had a deal, and then this deal has gone sideways, and I just don't believe that Jerry's going to fold his hand here when he is looking at his football team and he's aware that they're an 8 or 9 win team at best. I just don't think Jerry folds right here. I could be wrong, but I don't see it being the same situation with Emmett where we're a Super Bowl team and they just needed that one push. That's not the scenario they're in here.
So just to clear up,
he did have a contract too. Yeah.
That's true. Micah number for franchise tag next year. He's technically, the NFL has classified him as a linebacker. It's 27.7 next year. And then beyond that, you're looking at like 30, it'd be like 34 million the following year. And I know Jerry's looking at it like, hey, why does it make sense to give this guy, that big of a pay raise? But that's just kind of the business. Like, when these guys are eligible for deals, they get the deals that they want more often than not. I just think eventually, I think before week one, whether that's the Sunday before week one or on Labor Day weekend or the Labor Day, I do think a deal gets done. If not, it's, I think, a massive mistake by both parties.
I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, Coach. I also don't necessarily think that excludes them from making this a deal eventually, which means not necessarily that Micah's side will fold and come to Jerry on this. But I think at some point this deal gets done.
All right. Well, we've been talking about. I tell you what, Marcus's theme of the night is buffalo pizza. So I'll bet the both.
I'm just saying the food.
I'll be quiet. I said I'll bet the both of you a damn pizza that it doesn't get done. I bet Jerry digs his heels in.
That's fair.
Listen, what is the best food to get in Texas? Is it barbecue still? I don't know. I just heard
now you started a whole other podcast. Is what you started.
I've heard it's not great right now. That's been the whispers.
You've heard what's not great.
The food scene in Dallas is a little overrated.
Marcus is the biggest troll I've ever seen on this show.
Listen, you haven't had the
drawing you off sides, Coach. Don't listen to him.
I mean, I'm bantering with a guy from Erie, Pennsylvania, about being a food savant. Are you?
Don't get drawn off sides. Don't get drawn off sides, Coach. Come on.
He jumped.
He's got the hard
right
count. Back. He's giving you the hard count. Come on.
Well, ironically, as we were talking, the Four-Letter Network sent out an alert. Brian Schottenheimer confident Cowboys will have Micah Parsons for September 4th opener.
I was going to mention that, like in his press conference right before this practice that they're having, they kept on pressing him on whether he was going to have Micah for week 1. And apparently apparently he said, yeah, I feel good. And they asked him, you feel good about him playing? And then he gave them a wink and then he goes, I feel good. So I don't know what that means, but
Mike, I bet you Micah has told them, hey, this is the date. If I don't get a deal done, that's when I'll start practicing. We'll start looking forward to the season. I think everybody probably knows that he's playing week 1, but Mike is just not going to start practicing until a certain point, right?
Or until they cross that agreed upon date in which they announce the deal that they've had secretly in place this whole time.
Or they don't get a deal done. If Micah sets hey, it's August 31st, and if I don't have a deal, that's when I'm start practicing and I'm not doing any contract stuff. Maybe that's what they know.
Yeah, seems fair.
All right, one final question before we go. The injury to Jonathan Mingo, what does that do to the receiver room makeup, if anything?
I think it has some ripple effects, right? I think Jalen Tolbert's spot on the team is locked now, but now you're trying to figure out who are the 5th and 6th receivers on this team. Is it Ryan Flournoy? Is it Trayshawn Holden? Is it Jalen Brooks? Flournoy and Brooks were guys that were used as gunners last week in the preseason. But I also wonder, is this a chance for the Cowboys to maybe go shorter on receivers, only keep 5 receivers and go longer, in the secondary? Maybe you feel like they need Zion Childress more than they need Ryan Flournoy. So I think it's going to have some big consequences. It does sound like Mingo could be back by October or maybe before that. But he's going to be placed on the injured reserve list, I think, here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think
it really becomes a special teams issue, doesn't it? I mean, who can cover? Yep. They're trying to give Cropper multiple opportunities. They're trying to give all these guys multiple opportunities to see who can cover and who can really make something out of themselves on special teams. So I think it's going to be. I really believe it'll become a special teams question as to how many guys they have, because let's say a really good veteran receiver gets cut. I don't think that's the direction they're going to go. I think they're going to want somebody that can play teams.
I think Jalen Brooks' chances of making this team go up significantly because he's the special teams guy of that group for sure. And you've seen a little bit of him playing in the regular season. It's been okay. So I think it's an unfortunate situation, but it really just felt like they were split. Mingo was splitting a role with Tolbert, right? As kind of a wide receiver 3-ish, but I mean, in the reality, Turpin, is kind of also taking a portion of those snaps from the slot. We saw a ton of him playing at wide receiver and a lot with the first team. So they're clearly working him in a role where similar to running back, where they're going to design touches for Turpin out of the backfield and as a wide receiver. So you account for him for snaps as well. But I just think that Tolbert takes over Mingo's snaps on the field during the regular season preseason. They wait till Mingo gets healthy, and a guy like Brooks, maybe Flournoy, potentially makes the roster with some special teams help if they can, prove themselves.
Is it bad that I called Cropper Dropper?
No, poor Jalen Cropper. Oh man,
he's just destined to be up and down the roster and practice squad, and he's gonna have a great training camp next year as well. I bet.
All right. We're gonna do it again Friday night, right? Little Friday Night Lights, a little special squad show, and then next week we'll go do a little Monday, Thursday, kind of get back in that groove until we start the season.
Yeah, I might have to grab some of New York style pizza from one of my local places here, Pizza Hut. Get some great authentic pizza.
I mean, it's coming from a guy with kids. I guarantee you, you're a top ramen chicken nuggets guy. Quit trying to act like you're some kind of Bobby Flay savant.
A foodie up here, Stretch.
Oh, bull crap! You're eating that guppy out of that lake over there.
His kids are too young, Marcus. Give him time. He'll learn that he's got to eat garbage.
It's fish and chips. He's eating that perch out of that lake over there.
Oh,
give him time.
I'm going to fly you out, Coach, so you can experience the food scene up here. It's unbelievable.
I'm telling you, that right there, I mean, you talk about getting shot in the ass. That doesn't get much better than that talk.
All right, guys, have a great couple of days, and we'll do it again on Friday night. Looking forward to the Cowboys and the Falcons. For the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, Marcus Mosher, and Landon McCool, don't forget, they've got the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast the rest of this week, right?
Yeah, of course. We've got a show coming out on Thursday talking about the guys that are locks to make the roster. And then on Friday, we'll get you ready for the Cowboys' final preseason game.
Beautiful. All right. We'll look forward to that. But thank you for being with us tonight. Enjoyed it very much. Stephen White, everybody getting in on the comment crew. Love you guys. Appreciate it. We'll do it again on Friday. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.